Hello everyone and welcome along to the Turkish Grand Prix, where the rain has been falling at the intercity Istanbul part, but it has stopped now. But with a damp track, our cars will be starting on the intermediate tyres. How long will it take for the track to dry is another question, but that turn one, like last year, is going to be absolute chaos once more. So Valtteri Bottas has 8 podiums without a victory this season. His teammate Lewis Hamilton starts all the way down in 11th position because he is taking a new internal combustion engine. The tyre options this afternoon are the softs, the medium, or the hards if we ever get to use those slick tyres. At the moment, it's going to be at least the intermediates and maybe the wets when we see what everyone is starting on, but I fear it will be the intermediates for most people. Yes, Valtteri Bottas intermediates, Max Verstappen also intermediates. And I think that will be the same for most other people. And the formation lap is now underway. And the spray is pretty bad as they pull away from the grid. But obviously, Valtteri Bottas lost the championship at this race last year. Will Max Verstappen retake the championship this year at the Turkish Grand Prix? 2 points in it. Gasly radio. And Pierre Gasly being told we expect the conditions, the damp conditions, the drizzly conditions to stay the same pretty much the whole race. It's the second wet Turkish Grand Prix we've had in a row. And it's intermediate tyres at the start of this race. It's Russia reversed. It's a wet start. At Russia, it was a dry start, but a wet ending. And there is a little bit of standing water on the track, but it is nothing to threaten a potential safety car start. But we are going to take a standing start then at the start of this race and hold tight for absolute chaos at turn one. And remember, it was raining pretty heavily here last year, but it did dry out towards the end. I believe it is drizzling at the moment at the circuit, so it is looking like the track will stay wet until at least if that drizzle does stop. Previous Turkey winners then, Hamilton, Vettel in 2011, then Hamilton in 2010, Button in 2009, and Felipe Massa in 2008. Obviously, he has the most victories here. 2006, 7, and 8. Felipe Massa took 3 victories in a row at the intercity Istanbul Park. If Lewis Hamilton can win from 11th on the grid today, he would equal that record of the most wins at Turkey in Formula One then. Right, Valtteri Bottas pulls in to his grid position. Then Max Verstappen alongside him. Verstappen's going to have that inside line, but Valtteri Bottas will have the grippier grid stop starting on the racing line. A very nervous Christian Horner looks on as the final few cars make their way through the chicane at the end of the lap then. It's damage limitation this weekend for Lewis Hamilton, or at least on race day today. Daniel Ricciardo then comes round the final corner and is about to pull into his grid position to take the start of the Turkish Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton starts 11th. Valtteri Bottas on pole position, Max Verstappen alongside him. Daniel Ricciardo pulls into position. Then the medical car. We have now got a green flag at the back. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights in Istanbul. And the Turkish Grand Prix is going. It's a tentative start. But Valtteri Bottas gets away well. But does Verstappen get down the inside of him? No. And there's a spinner. It's an Alpine that has gone round, and it's Fernando Alonso. But so far, so good. They have all made it through the opening couple of corners. But Fernando Alonso and Hamilton's going to try the outside of Sebastian Vettel. But he doesn't quite make it. He goes to the inside now. Does Hamilton get through? No, he's still stuck behind. He's actually getting overtaken. Hamilton's dropping down the order. No, there's almost contact between the Mercedes and the Alpine. And somehow they've all made it through. Hamilton's gone up one position and up to 10th as they head towards turn 7 and on to turn 8 they go. It's very twitchy and Daniel Ricciardo's going to try the outside of Carlos Sainz at turn 7. Wow, what a move that was if he made it through. Yes, he did at turn 7. So it's Valtteri Bottas from Max Verstappen, from Charles Leclerc, Sergio Perez, Pierre Gasly, Norris, Stroll, Tsunoda, Vettel and Hamilton is the top 10. Then Hamilton trying desperately now to get past Sebastian Vettel. Ricciardo's dropped a few positions. I think he might have gone off. There's a yellow flag in sectors 2 and 3. I wonder if we might well have had an incident. And Hamilton's going to try the outside of Sebastian Vettel. What a move that was down at the chicane. Hamilton's up to 9th position. And can he get down the inside of Yuki Tsunoda at his start of the Turkish Grand Prix? Wow, what a dramatic opening lap. But I think Ricciardo definitely had an incident, maybe at the chicane of turn 8, turn 9 and 10, that tricky little chicane. I think Daniel Ricciardo might well have ended it somewhere off the track. He's got going again, but he's dropped down to 18th position. But Hamilton's had a good start. He's going to try the inside of Yuki Tsunoda. And there's almost contact there as well at turn 5. Hamilton's getting really racy this afternoon at Istanbul. And there's another yellow flag out in sector 1. It's Mick Schumacher tumbling down the order this time. But Hamilton feeling really racy this afternoon. It's really tricky to get on the brakes. He's already got up to 9th position. He's had a very good start through turn 8 they go, the quadruple apex. Turn 8, where will Hamilton make the move? We've seen him make the moves into the last couple of corners before. That might be the same this time. Through the chicane of turn 9 and turn 10 then. DRS obviously is disabled at the moment. Through turn 11 they go. The flat out kink. Is Hamilton going to get a toe? No, he isn't. Is he going to think about a move maybe into the hairpin? Can he get it stopped? He went super late on the brakes and he just about gets it stopped for the corner, but he doesn't get past Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen's putting over. And I think that might have been just to get out of the spray of Valtteri Bottas. And they're all trying to do that. They're all trying to get out of the spray. The spray's picking up a bit now on that start-finish straight where there is some damp patches. And Hamilton's struggling then to get past Yuki Tsunoda after making initially a very, very good start to this Turkish Grand Prix. And he's claimed already 2 positions, but he is 11 seconds behind his teammate Valtteri Bottas. Let's then take a look at the start of the race. Valtteri Bottas gets a rocket up his backside going into turn 1, and Max was just left really rather hopeless. And then I think there might have been contact actually between the AlphaTauri and the Alpine of Fernando Alonso, and that might have been why Fernando Alonso was sent spinning round into and off the track. Let's go on board with Fernando Alonso, who is currently in 15th position. Was there contact? Oh yes, there definitely was contact. And I don't think Yuki Tsunoda gave him much racing room at all there at all. Or was it Pierre? Or was it Gasly? Sorry, Pierre Gasly. And let's go on board with Gasly. And does he run? Let's see. Does he run Fernando out wide to the edge of the track? It's one of those. I think it might go down as a first lap racing incident, considering that we have obviously had a wet start. Let's have a look at it from the outside again. Gasly radio. Gasly saying he got sandwiched because there's Perez on the inside. I don't think Gasly really had anywhere to go, did he? But let's go on board with Valtteri Bottas at the start. Very good reaction time. 0.26 seconds was Valtteri Bottas's reaction time to lights out. And he does make a very good start, unlike last year where he went spinning out at turn 1. And he's enjoying himself now because he's getting some free air. Let's go on board with Fernando Alonso then. Is he going to try and get past Mick Schumacher? Oh, Fernando Alonso's had more contact with Mick Schumacher this time. And that is why Mick Schumacher went tumbling down the order. And as Nicholas Latifi has also spun round. And Latifi's last. That was last at that point. So that must have been a spin on his own. But Hamilton's still struggling to get past the AlphaTauri of Yuki Tsunoda. He might now have a good opportunity to do that into the chicane. No, but he's closer than ever before going through turn 11. This could be Hamilton's opportunity going into the final couple of corners then through turn 11, and he's putting out the spray, putting out the slipstream, but not past Yuki Tsunoda. Verstappen's also reporting gear shift issues, and that incident between Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly on the first lap is under investigation. And Hamilton really struggling then to get past Yuki Tsunoda, and we're on board with Carlos Sainz now. He's up to 15, and he's got George Russell ahead of him, and they are battling for 14th. Good start then from Carlos Sainz overall. He's made quite a few positions up already, but Hamilton clearly struggling in not the start of this, the start phase of this race. He had a good initial getaway, and he managed to make some good overtakes, a couple of overtakes on that first lap, but he's struggling a bit now, and he is a second behind, he's about half a second now behind Yuki Tsunoda. And Carlos Sainz is now within touching distance of George Russell going into the chicane. But again, he's still not close enough, is Carlos Sainz, but he might be getting the run through turn 11. And he is. He's going to be closer to George Russell, and it might be a move into the final couple of corners. It's Carlos Sainz to the outside of George Russell. Can he hold it in there? He's going to get the inside at the next corner. That's a nice move from Carlos Sainz, but George Russell's going to fight back, and Hamilton's getting super close now to Yuki Tsunoda going into turn 1, but he's not quite close enough. And Hamilton's really struggling to get past Tsunoda here. When can he do it? They're heading through the middle part of the lap now, turn 3, turn 4, and turn 5. Really, you can't overtake at this part of the track unless you are feeling really brave. And on to turn 6, turn 7 it goes. Hamilton going to think about a move maybe. At turn 7, he looks to the inside line, and he is going to try the inside line actually, and he decides better of it, whilst Fernando Alonso and Mick Schumacher are now under investigation for causing a collision as well. So we currently have, three drivers under investigation. Fernando Alonso under investigation twice. But Tsunoda weaving to break the toe from Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton once again very close going into the chicane. He was half a second quicker on the last lap, and I fear Hamilton might have Tsunoda in his mirrors at the end of this lap then, but we will see what goes on. I don't think Hamilton's managed to get past again. No, he hasn't into the final corner, but Carlos Sainz now is on the back of Kimi Raikkonen going into the hairpin at the end of the lap. He's going to go down the inside. That's a nice move from Carlos Sainz, but can he get it stopped? And is the Alfa Romeo going to get the switch back? No. Good move from Carlos Sainz. And Hamilton's going to try the inside, is he? At turn 1 on Yuki Tsunoda? No. Thinks better of it. And I think I just saw maybe a car dive to the pits, did I? I think it might have been Nicholas Latifi. He's just lost a position. No, he can't have been. Latifi's just coming down. No, I don't think anyone's pitted. No. But Hamilton's biding his time really here, getting past Yuki Tsunoda. He was racy on that first lap, but he's trying to be now a bit more cautious, have those conditions just turned a bit as they head down towards turn 7 and on to turn 8. He needs to clear Yuki Tsunoda. As it stands at the moment, Verstappen would take, a 12-point lead at the top of the championship. Obviously, Hamilton didn't run in the top 4 of the opening 32 laps of last year's race through the chicane. Now, obviously, when he started 6th that year, didn't he, last year? Through turn 11, Yuki Tsunoda and Lewis Hamilton head. Hamilton's closer, he's gaining on the AlphaTauri, but he's not quite close enough. Again, he is getting closer though, and there might be a sniff of an opportunity along the start-finish straight. No DRS then at the moment as Sainz gets past the other Alfa Romeo of Giovinazzi, but Hamilton's close now. And Tsunoda's going to cover the inside line. Hamilton's going to be forced to the outside. No, he's going to still go to the inside, but he doesn't quite make the move. And once again, he bows out of it. But he's really close now through turn 2. And this might kind of be compromising him a bit as they head towards turn 3. Hamilton's going to try the outside, is he? And he's going to hang it in there. And that is a wonderful move from the 7-time world champion on Yuki Tsunoda on the outside of turn 3. Hamilton up to 8th position then. Next up is Lance Stroll, who's about a second up the road. But Hamilton finally gets past the AlphaTauri. And that was a good move. Round the outside of turn 3, got a slipstream through turn 2. And that was a brilliant move by the British driver. Hamilton radio. Being told great stuff by Peter Bonington. And there's Carlos Sainz. As soon as he got past now, I think this is the move on Giovinazzi again. Replay. He actually got it done before the braking zone at the hairpin. And it's a time penalty of 5 seconds for Pierre Gasly for causing a collision. And Hamilton thinks about it on the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll into the final corner, but he has to bow out of it and bow out of contact, maybe. As they head to the final corner, he's going to be close again, going into the first corner. And Hamilton is going to be alongside, is he? No, not quite. Is it going to be that move to turn 3 again? We'll have to wait and see. I think he's going to be a little bit too far back for this time for a move to the outside of turn 3. Yes, he very much is. Or is he? No, he's gone for it again. Round the outside of turn 3 goes Lewis Hamilton. Another brilliant overtake. And that was a brilliant move from Lewis Hamilton. And he's up to 7th position now. And he's really put the foot to the floor. But he looked too far back, but he went so late on the brakes and somehow managed to get it stopped. And Carlos Sainz again is making his way up the order. He has just got past an Alpine of Esteban Ocon, I think that is. He started 19th and he's now up to 11th. He's doing a brilliant drive, and it's a time penalty for Fernando Alonso of 5 seconds to add insult to injury for Fernando Alonso. He's got a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision with Mick Schumacher. And I think the rain might have actually stopped or slowed down at least. It's interesting watching Bottas and Verstappen go through those couple of corners. Bottas radio. And is that because it's still raining or not for each other? It's actually not raining. Yeah, we're being told it's stopped raining, but the surface is still wet. And Valtteri Bottas saying no dry lines beginning to form yet. It's a cold track as well, isn't it? They're going to really struggle if they go over to those slicks to get them up to temperature. And obviously, potentially, it could rain again. And Hamilton's now close to Lando Norris. Going into... What corner is that? Is that this... No, I think that's turn 7. And he's about to head through turn 8 now. The quadruple apex corner. But Hamilton is close to Lando Norris, and it might be another trademark move from the British driver. But is he going to be? He's not close enough into the chicane to even think about a move, but he might be going into the hairpin at the end of the lap, going into turn 12. And we will wait and see as to what unfolds in the next two corners. I think Norris just lifted a little bit through turn 11, and Hamilton's gaining. He's gaining on Lando Norris. He's going to go to the inside of Lando Norris, and he's going to get past Lando Norris at turn 12. Lewis Hamilton up to 6th then. And I think Lando knows he's not racing Lewis and just rather would concede that position. And Hamilton's interestingly just on the fastest lap of the race. Pierre Gasly, the other AlphaTauri, is up next. He's going 5 places and the fastest lap. I think it's been a positive opening 11 laps for the Mercedes British driver at this moment in time. As we go to Valtteri Bottas, then through turn 8, and he's pulled a 2.6 second gap for Verstappen radio. Verstappen saying it's getting a tiny bit drier, but still very greasy. And Bottas, who was lapping in the mid 134s a few laps ago, still lapping in the mid 134s. So that track clearly isn't drying very quickly at all. But we did see last year it did dry pretty quickly. So we'll wait and see as to exactly what happens. But Valtteri Bottas has had to wait over a year, for his victory, but he's had a very dominant start to this race. Gasly, obviously, Hamilton's got Gasly ahead of him, 4 seconds that gap is, and obviously Gasly will take a penalty or a 5-second penalty at his next pit stop because he's got a time penalty. Hamilton does yet another fastest lap of a 1:33.4. That's about a second quicker than his teammate Valtteri Bottas. If it really dries up, Hamilton could well still be on for a race victory here this afternoon. Do not count him out. 4.1 seconds to Pierre Gasly as Latifi gets past Mick Schumacher for 18th position. It's a packed out Istanbul Park this afternoon. It's great to see fans back at the Turkish Grand Prix. Obviously, we didn't have fans at this race last year. It's 100% full crowd this afternoon, and it's great to see the crowds back. And Hamilton was a second quicker than Verstappen on the last lap on the intermediate tyres. You see all drivers on the intermediate tyres. As Carlos Sainz heads through turn 8, and he's got Sebastian Vettel ahead of him in 10th position. So this is for the points for Carlos Sainz. You see Vettel weaving ahead of him to try and break that slipstream. I mean, it's 15 degrees apparently, according to Ted Gravitz, who's trackside and giving us all the weather updates. Thanks for that, Ted. And Hamilton's just gone even quicker for 1:33.4 on the last lap. So he is properly flying now. And Hamilton's about 3.5 seconds over from the crossover of what Pirelli think is the difference between the intermediates and the dries, or the slicks then. So I don't think we're too far away now. Hamilton radio. But Hamilton's saying that the track is still wet and it's nowhere near ready for slicks yet. So are we going to do a stop for intermediates first, maybe, and then go on to the slicks? We have to wait and see. Or will Hamilton do what he did last year, where he wore his intermediates down to pretty much 6. And we in the little box on the side of our screen, we've got the black arrow or the silver arrow in the distance as we're going on board with the AlphaTauri Pierre Gasly. Hamilton's getting exceptionally close now, and he's really gained on Pierre Gasly pretty quickly. And I don't think Pierre Gasly will have Bottas radio. Oh, and Sainz has gone down the inside. Has there been contact between the Ferrari and Sebastian Vettel, maybe? There was definite contact there. Let's have a look. That was at turn 12. And there's Vettel. Oh, and Carlos Sainz, Vettel radio. I think it was more tyre to tyre. But we will wait and see. Hamilton is second behind Pierre Gasly. Now then, he's really weighing down the AlphaTauri pretty quickly. That 14 of 58 of this Turkish Grand Prix that's been full of plenty of drama, maybe say, so far. Hamilton 1.2 seconds quicker last time as they head to the chicane. I think Hamilton's might be thinking about getting this move done at turn 12 as they head up towards the flat-out kink of turn 11. And he's going to be gaining. He's gaining. He's alongside, and he's going to be past the AlphaTauri before the braking zone. Hamilton up to 5th. But next up the line, 8 seconds up the road, is Sergio Perez. And he's obviously not going to want to let Hamilton through either. But Hamilton up 6 places then. Let's take a look at that move again on Pierre Gasly. Through turn 11, gets a brilliant slipstream, and he is alongside him, and he is past Pierre Gasly before we get to turn 12. Hamilton started 11th, now up to 5th. Hamilton radio. He's 18 seconds behind the leaders currently, but obviously he has been overtaking plenty of cars. And we are not even at quarter race distance yet. Obviously, it will be a bit more of a challenge when he gets towards Perez, because Perez won't want to let him through. And certainly the Leclerc won't want to let him through either. He is currently, about 17 seconds behind, 16 now. That's coming down quite quickly, behind Valtteri Bottas. So he's gaining on his teammate pretty quickly. He's in 5th. He's got 3 cars to clear before he gets to Valtteri Bottas. Can Lewis Hamilton still win this Turkish Grand Prix? It would be something quite special if he could. Ricciardo commonly in 16th, behind George Russell, who is commonly running in 15th. Carlos Sainz is now getting close to the back of Yuki Tsunoda at the hairpin, but he's going to be just that little bit too far back. Sainz having a great drive so far, up to 10th position. And we will have to wait to see when Carlos Sainz can get past Yuki Tsunoda. Hamilton really struggled, remember, to get past Tsunoda at the start of this race. Hamilton radio. Hamilton saying he's losing a bit of tread on these intermediate tyres. Has he just pushed that little bit too hard, maybe, those intermediates? And as Hamilton heads through turn 8 now, flat out turn 8 on the intermediate tyres. 15 laps to those the ages on those brand new intermediate tyres, and he locks up going into the hairpin, but he just about keeps it, the chicane, but just about keeps it on the road. Gasly radio. And Hamilton, Gasly being told big front right damage for Lewis. Will Lewis be coming into the pits? I mean, Lewis has come through the field, hasn't he? So, and Carlos Sainz is now going to think about a move on Yuki Tsunoda at the hairpin turn 12, and he can't quite do it. And Hamilton saying there's a ball strip in the middle of those Pirelli intermediates, and Carlos Sainz then is going to be trying the inside of Yuki Tsunoda at turn 1. Is he? No, he thinks about it, but he bowed out of it. Can he make a move maybe at turn 3? And Hamilton, even though he's got a ball patch on those tyres, is closing the gap to Sergio Perez. Hamilton radio. I mean, is it fastest set to Max Verstappen? Because Verstappen's put his foot down. I mean, obviously, you don't want to put another set of intermediate tyres on. You want to make these go until it is ready for 6. So Verstappen's just on the fastest lap of the race and has gone through that graining stage now, and I think has got past it. The gap is about 4 seconds from Perez to Hamilton as Sainz is heading towards turn 12, and he's going to try the inside of Yuki Tsunoda. Good move, but Tsunoda's going to stay in there. No, he actually just backs out of it. Sainz up to 9th position then, and he's 38 seconds off the race lead. Let's go on board with Sainz again then, and rewatch that move as they head towards turn 12, and he sees the rain lights. He doesn't see them for very long. Going on back to Valtteri Bottas then, who's cruising at the moment, 3 seconds out in front, is having a really good afternoon at Istanbul. 18 laps gone. Then, and it might be time to change for those slick tyres, but Verstappen's going even quicker then, and he's slightly beginning to close down that gap to Valtteri. And Hamilton's sitting back. Is he waiting for an opportunity? And Valtteri Bottas has just done the fastest lap, actually. So it's a good final sector from Valtteri Bottas, a 1:33.1. The track is really coming to them now with, obviously, the racing line. They're all coming over, interestingly, to the left-hand side of the track on the start-finish straight. Maybe that is the slightly drier line, or they're just trying to keep their tyres cool. But who takes the gamble then, and who goes for the slick tyres? I don't think it's far away from the crossover now. Hamilton's got nothing to lose. Could he potentially do it? Would he be the one that gambles? To go on board with Valtteri Bottas at turn 1. Has a bit of a moment, and the back end steps out, gets a bit of oversteer. Does that Mercedes? And that gap will lose him a couple of tenths to Max Verstappen. It's lost him half a second to Max Verstappen. Still on the intermediates, but who makes that crossover? When is that changed to the slick tyres? And when it comes, are we going to have cars flying off the road or what? Because obviously the racing line will be dry, but as soon as you come off it, it will still be wet. We're looking at the Mercedes pit wall then. Tapping the Ricky button. I think they're talking maybe to Ricky on their pit wall. James Vowles, the chief strategist at Mercedes, it'd be his call as to when he calls his two drivers in to pit them for the slick tyres or another set of intermediates if they don't think they can go. It's still looking, there's still a bit of spray towards the back end of the circuit. And a lot of green laps that last time around, people pushing a little bit harder. The track is coming to them a bit more. It's Valtteri Bottas with the fastest lap of the race. Hamilton's done the fastest set to one, so he's started to put his foot down here, and he's 4.5 seconds away from Sergio Perez. Nice radio. And they're basically saying their intermediates are turned into slicks. A warm, slick intermediate seems very much the tyres to be on here at Istanbul this afternoon. You can see those broad patches forming on the Alpine of Esteban Ocon's tyres as well. So I think that is more going to be trying to make these inters go as long as they possibly can on a drying track. Hamilton does the fastest lap then. 3.395 now away from Sergio Perez.
Yes, they are, but you've got to remember these inters are a very soft tyre as well. So they still have a little bit of tread on them.
The inters are very soft tyres, but even though they're saying they're pretty much slicks, they will still have a tiny little bit of tread on them. I mean, Red Bull really need Perez lapping where Verstappen's lapping to hold Hamilton up, really. And we're looking at Hamilton's tyres now, and there is a massive bald strip down the middle of them.
7-point swing. Verstappen will be leading the championship by 5 points at the end of the Turkish Grand Prix, and that could prove crucial with such a slight.
And as it stands, the battle forecast is that Hamilton would catch Perez in 4 laps. As it stands, Verstappen will take a 5-point lead in the Drivers' Championship. That could be a crucial 5-point lead in the Drivers' Championship as Hamilton heads towards turn 12. Ricardo radio.
It's hardly a gamble, is it?
I mean, Ricardo's saying he can be quite a bit faster on a new set of intermediates. He's got nothing to lose, has he, Daniel Ricciardo? So why not give it a go? Why not give it a try? But if the track's drying, would you lose out? Could you make that time up?
We'd love to see what a new set of intermediate tyres could do out there, and you could bet your bottom dollar that if Ricciardo comes in and it does prove to be that much faster, there'll be a whole stampede into the pits.
And Hamilton gaining, and Ricardo's in. So Ricardo's coming in then. And is it going to be a new set of intermediates? I think it probably will be, because the track's not stick ready yet. Let's see. Yes, it is a new set of intermediates. Ricardo's in. If Ricardo goes a lot quicker, it could turn into a very busy pit lane. It's a good stop, 2.8 seconds from the McLaren crew, and we will now see as to what happens in the pit lane. That could have just sparked a bit of a pit mayhem then, and I'm pretty sure the strategists of each teams now will be sitting scratching their heads. Is it worth putting a new set of intermediates on? Is the track just that little bit too wet still to go to slicks, and do they need to chuck a new set of inters on? We will see what happens with Daniel Ricciardo, who's going to come out, and there's a yellow flag in sector 2, and Tsunoda's had a spin. Down at the chicane of turn 9 and turn 10, and Tsunoda's dropped all the way down to 13th position now. He was in the points playing position, Yuki Tsunoda. He's made a bit of a mistake. Let's see what happens then as he heads towards the chicane of turn 9 and 10. Does he just lose it going in? Oh, yeah, just gets a bit of oversteer, gets on the wet patches as well. And that just spins that car around. And you'd imagine Tsunoda would be coming in now as well, because he's probably flat spotted a bit. Those intermediate tyres. Hamilton 3 seconds now away from Sergio Perez. Not gaining like we'd thought, but is he preserving those intermediate tyres to try and make them go as long as they can and maybe try and get them to go to the crossover? But we'll wait and see. If it does cross over, we don't think there's any more rain on the way, but Carlos Sainz just runs slightly wide, and you can see that the AstroTurf is still pretty wet with the amount of water that he kicked up, as de Klerk now does the fastest lap of the race. And Ricciardo was 69 hundredths of a second slower than Lewis Hamilton in Sector 3, so maybe a new set of intermediates might be the best option. Leclerc radio. So Leclerc being told Ricciardo's slower with the new inters, but he's not much slower with the new intermediates. Once he gets some temperature into those tyres, he could still potentially be a bit quicker. And they've all picked up the pace a bit. And they're all doing similar lap times. And Hamilton's not really closing on Perez anymore as we go towards Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen. 2.5 seconds is the gap. If Perez has preserved his tyres, then it might be Hamilton that's going to struggle to get past. And I think Lewis is thinking more into the long distance, 10 laps time. What's the distance? What's the situation with the tyres as the two Hasses now begin to let Valtteri Bottas through and become the first people to be lapped in this Turkish Grand Prix at Istanbul Park. So that was Mick Schumacher who's just got lapped, and it'd be Nikita Mazepin up next. The blue flags are being waved.
That's when he started having his problems after leading the opening stages. Indeed, he did, and they're not showing it because it's the battle for last position, or rather 19th.
Is Ricciardo really gaining?
It's a great comeback for Mick Schumacher after such a great qualifying, his best ever qualifying in F1, P14. We saw his spin earlier on. He's made up a great amount of ground.
More rain in turn 9 is what Gasly is saying. It's like, is the rain picking up again then? I believe it is raining again. The rain has started, and it does look pretty grim towards the back end of the circuit. And we will wait and see. I think it might be a new set of intermediates, because there's spots of rain on the cameras and the rain lights are on. And Ricciardo on a fresh set of inters is now matching the leader's pace. I did say that. Once he gets a bit of temperature into those tyres, could he still match the leader's pace? And that is exactly what he is doing. Is Bottas being saying there's a bit more rain now. They're all reporting a bit more rain, and it might have started again. Who makes that gamble? Through turn 10 and 11 goes the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. He's going to try the inside of Sebastian Vettel at turn 12. Can he get it stopped? No, and he has to bow out a bit and take a bit more of the curb than he would have liked, and that would have lost him a bit of time to Sebastian Vettel. And Sergio Perez again picking up his pace. And it's raining at turn 1. I can see that on the cameras as well. So the rain seems to be coming in from the turn 8-9 section. Obviously, it's still a wet track because it's been raining prior to the race, and looks like there might be a bit more rain maybe on the way. It is looking very grim towards turn 9. So Valtteri Bottas leads from Max Verstappen, from Sergio Perez, from Lewis Hamilton, Science Radio. And Science saying we should try a one-stop from here. But if it's raining a bit more, then surely you're going to need a new set of inters. It doesn't look like there's more rain on the radar coming in.
Today, but that does look a little bit like festive lights on the weather radar, because there's lots of blue around the green, and it's just whether any of those blue bits, which is the rain,
and there's lots of blue around the track on the weather radar. So at Bottas Radio. I mean, it isn't significant rain, I don't think. It's a light drizzle. It wouldn't dry the track. You wouldn't dry the track with this rain, but it wouldn't dramatically wet it either. Maybe you can join the conversation. Hashtag Turkish Grand Prix. But is there more heavy rain on the way? I think every team's seen different radars here. Hamilton Radio. And Hamilton saying his grip is now starting to drop. He was 7/10 slower than Max Verstappen. Is it time for a new set of intermediates? For the 7-time world champion, if Ricciardo's lapping quicker than everyone at the moment, even though he hasn't got the fastest lap, he's matching the leader's pace, which currently Hamilton is not doing. He's half a second slower than Max Verstappen on lap 26 and 7/10 slower at last lap than Max Verstappen. 14 seconds is the gap. He really isn't putting pressure on Sergio Perez. It's Vettel Radio. Oh, and Nikita Mazepin's just cut off Lewis Hamilton rather. Going through turn 11, he's being shown the blue flags. He now lets Lewis Hamilton through. But he definitely came back onto the racing line. In front of Lewis Hamilton, did Nikita Mazepin there, and it has held Lewis Hamilton up. 2 seconds is the gap between Perez and Hamilton now. And he was closer to Sergio Perez with Lewis Hamilton, but obviously lost time because he got held up by Nikita Mazepin, who was once again ignoring the blue flags. And Hamilton's pulled it back to 2 seconds now. And Vettel's just got past Esteban Ocon for 10th position. But when are the pit stops going to come? And what tyres is it going to be at those pit stops? Charles Leclerc did a fantastic job as well, staying third. And let's go on board with Hamilton then and have a look. When he tried to get past Mazepin, He did have to lift, and Mazepin did rather cut up Lewis Hamilton. That was close to a collision. The fastest part of the racetrack. So we'll wait to see whether the stewards decide to take a look at that. I imagine Mercedes will be on the steward's case with that as well, because that did rather hold up Lewis Hamilton looking at the times. Hamilton Bottas radio. And Bottas saying it's still raining from turn 6 to turn 12. So that rain seems to be coming in across the circuit from the south of it to the north. And you can see tracks forming at turn 12.
That's basically because it hasn't completely stopped raining, so the track hasn't had a chance to dry out, and it's not raining hard enough to make the track wet enough to warrant putting new intermediate tyres on. And we're in a holding pattern, I think, for this race. We're circling Gatwick.
I mean, it isn't, like, it's not wet enough to put a new set of intermediates on, but it isn't dry enough to put sticks on either. And let's go on board with Sebastian Vettel then. That's how we got past Esteban Ocon this turn 12. And Esteban Ocon actually thinks about it at the final, going back down the inside at the final corner, but has to back out of that one. Of what I said, have certainly had contact. But Carlos Sainz now very close to Lance Stroll, and I think he's going to be too far back at turn 12. Is he? Yes, he is going to be. Could he? Maybe you could think about it, couldn't he? Could Carlos Sainz back at he's going to try, is it? It's Carlos Sainz. No, he's just that little bit too far back going into the first turn of the Intercity Istanbul Park. And Verstappen's dropped back 2 seconds. They were an awful lot closer. And you can see the odd bits of dry line appearing through turn 8. You can see the odd bits of dry line appearing through turn 8. As Hamilton now is close to Sergio Perez. Perez is starting to struggle. 1.2 seconds now is that gap. And Alonso's in the pits. And it's a fight. He's serving his 5-second time penalty. It's a new set of intermediates, but it's a slow stop. Even with that 5-second time penalty, 8.8 seconds. Fernando Alonso was stationary for. But this is the battle that everyone wants to focus on. Perez and Hamilton. Intermediate tyres that are running as slicks. There's damp patches. It's tricky conditions in Turkey. Checo seems strong in sector 1. Lewis seems strong in sector 2 and 3. That's more of the power-based sectors, isn't it? Bottas radio. And Valtteri Bottas in his rear seems to be quite snappy, but it's one of those you've just got to hold on to see if the track does dry. What I think they were trying to do was balance the car and then give Hamilton a better racing car. It might not be as quick down the straights, but through the corners, it will help preserve the tyres. And I think what Mercedes is trying to do is giving Hamilton a better race car, so it's not as quick down the straights, but it's better at preserving its tyres through the corners. Join the conversation, remember, hashtag Turkish GP as they head towards turn 12. Hamilton is closer than ever. He's half a second behind Sergio Perez. Then that 33 of 58 of this Turkish Grand Prix. We are now over halfway mark. Hamilton doesn't want to go in the slipstream of Sergio Perez. The Red Bull looks quicker on the straights. 0.6 of a second then separates Hamilton and fourth position. And you don't want to take your eyes off this Turkish Grand Prix yet at all. Ferrari, it's raining more now, says Carlos Sainz. Is there potentially a shower on the way? And you think maybe the new set of Inters might be the way forward.
Almost shiny, slick-like tires.
Christian Horner in conversation with the engineering team and the strategists on the Red Bull pit wall. And Sergio Perez's tyres pretty much do look like sticks now. Hamilton's gaining on him, but he isn't close enough to think about a move through turn 12 as Ricciardo now gets past Nicholas Latifi. Ricciardo and Alonso, the only people to come into the pits so far in this race. And in the final few corners, it is looking very tricky to find grip. So maybe that is where it is raining slightly more. There's a lot of standing water still at those final few corners, that turn 12, 13, 14 section. And let's have a look at how Daniel Ricciardo got past Nicholas Latifi then. And then down the inside at turn 1. And that's a comfortable move from Daniel Ricciardo, but Hamilton closer now than ever to Sergio Perez as they head towards turn 8. The flat out kinks to turn 8, 17.1 is the gap to Max Verstappen for Lewis Hamilton. He was actually 2.5 tenths slower than Sergio Perez on that last lap, but he looks a lot closer going into the chicane at turn 9 and 10 this lap as he heads towards turn 11. He's going to get a slipstream all the way through turn 11. He's going to look a lot closer to Sergio Perez this time, and he's going to try the outside at turn 12. Perez is going to squeeze him right to the line. Perez is going to hold the inside at turn 12, but Hamilton's still going to hold in there and try the inside at turn 13. Oh, there's almost contact. And Perez almost get pushed pit lane into the pit lane entry. There's still wheel to wheel as they head down towards the start-finish straight. You have a feeling Hamilton's going to get this one out, but Perez is going to hold it on in there into turn 1, and Perez holds on the inside. What brilliant racing that was from the two of them. For 4 corners, they were wheel to wheel. Hamilton's going to try and think the outside at turn 3. Can't quite do it. Is it going to become the inside at turn 4, which is going to become the outside at turn 5? Norris comes into the pits. Hamilton is now super close as they head towards turn 7 and 8. Hard racing from both of them. And that was a good little battle. 8 tenths of a second now. Hamilton's had to take a step back, and I don't think it's going to be close enough into turn 12. And as they head towards in the final corner, through the final corner. I think we're going to have round 2 quite soon. Hamilton this time does choose to get into the slipstream, heading towards turn 1, but I don't think he's going to be close enough. No. But can he try his trademark move? Lewis Hamilton runs wide though. At turn 1, keeps it on the track. I think he locked maybe his rears, but let's have a look then at this attempt to overtake Perez towards turn 12. And I think they all get, and Hamilton did rather push Perez right into the pit lane. I haven't seen the stewards noted it. Perez complaining. Verstappen's coming in. Verstappen's been told to box. And Tsunoda's coming in as well. But what tyres is it going to be? A new set of inters or some slicks? It's intermediates for Max Verstappen. Good stop from Red Bull, and it is going to be, what's the stop time? We're not going to get it, but look, about 2.2 seconds, 2.1 seconds. Good stop from the Red Bull crew, and Verstappen is going to come out behind Leclerc, but he's going to come out ahead of Perez and Hamilton. Hamilton's closer to Sergio Perez this time. Through turn 1 they go. And the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc also looks like he is coming in now as well. Schumacher gets past Mazepin. So is it Sainz coming in? Yes, it is Sainz. Sorry. Sainz, it's a slow stop for Ferrari though. Oh no, what has gone wrong for Carlos Sainz? And that was a terrible stop. 8.1 seconds from the Ferrari crew. And Vettel's come into the pits now as well. And we've got a runner on slicks. We got a slick runner. And it's Sebastian Vettel. And Valtteri Bottas is coming into the pits. But Sebastian Vettel has put on some slick tyres. And I had to check my eyes there to make sure I was watching that correctly. And there's a yellow flag in sector 1. And Perez is in the pits. And I think the yellow flag was probably for Sebastian Vettel, and that doesn't surprise me at all. Hamilton not making a stop yet. And Perez has gone on to a new set of intermediates. And Sebastian Vettel's gone off the track again. And he is struggling. And it's a gamble that's certainly not paid off. And he's in the middle of turn 8 and all this is getting dangerous because there's cars coming through. And Hamilton gets past Vettel as well. And
intermediate tyres. I suppose if the rain doesn't come down any heavier, potentially.
And we're going on board with Sebastian Vettel. And Sebastian Vettel, he's gone off the circuit again, is he? Or is that, no, I think that's a replay. So he'll be on board now with Charles Leclerc because he had a trip off the track. Oh, he's locked up. And Charles Leclerc has gone straight on. And unsurprisingly, Sebastian Vettel is straight back into the pits.
He's leading this race, but he's lost time to Bottas and Verstappen, and also to Hamilton, who hasn't stopped and is running in fourth place. And Sebastian Vettel comes in for a change of tyres.
And unsurprisingly, Sebastian Vettel putting the intermediates back on.
They sort of, from having a slip tyre to having a brand new Inter, so it's going to be a bit of a shock.
And 19th position for Sebastian Vettel.
It's almost a second quicker than Max in front of him at the moment.
Yeah, it's not a dry race. You don't have to run two different compounds of tyre. You don't have to make a pit stop.
And let's just mind you, the regulations, if it's not a dry race, you don't have to run two compounds of tyres, and Sebastian Vettel spin in the pit lane. You don't have to run two compounds of tyres, and you don't have to make a mandatory pit stop. So Lewis Hamilton could do this on a no-stop race if he really wanted to.
I mean, he's pretty good at rally driving, I would say. That was impressive to hold that side, but yeah, I can't see a dry line in the circuit. I'm surprised he went for that. But the tarmac is so tough up, it's difficult to see the dry line.
And with it in a new time, so hard to see if there's a dry line or not.
But if Lewis Hamilton is going to the end on a set of slip tyres, possibly, what if Charles Leclerc could do the same thing?
And is that Pierre Gasly coming in now as well? Yes, it is Pierre Gasly. He's putting on a new set of intermediates. And he's going to serve his 5-second penalty. And good stop by the AlphaTauri crew after the time penalty. And Lance Stroll is now also in the pits. And let's go back on board with the start then. And yeah, Gasly does rather get sandwiched and doesn't really have enough room to go other than into the side of Fernando Alonso. I mean, Alonso hit Schumacher and also got a 5-second penalty later in that lap, didn't he? So
last year in the race, Lewis Hamilton pitted, don't forget, on lap 8, and then ran the intermediate.
And don't forget last year in the Turkish Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton pitted in lap 8 in the Clerk radio. I think the Clerk might be going to the end on this set of tyres. And it might be Lewis Hamilton going to the end on this set of tyres as well.
I think that is what I'm hearing in Charles Leclerc's tone. They lead Ferrari from Mercedes.
Leclerc leads from Valtteri Bottas, from Max Verstappen, and at
Lewis Hamilton only 3 and a bit seconds behind Verstappen in 4th.
Lewis Hamilton only 3 and a bit seconds behind Verstappen in 4th. As it stands, Verstappen will be leading the World Championship by just 1 single point, then going into the American rounds. But you cannot script what is about to unfold in this Turkish Grand Prix. Hamilton closing quite dramatically now on Max Verstappen, 3.6 seconds. But there's the Mercedes crew are getting ready to come in. Oh, and I think it's a set of 6.
With this pace, Jensen, he's not going to get ahead of Verstappen or Leclerc, and they might need to bring it in, but when they're going to do it,
I think I saw some red marked tyres. Oh, it's another set of intermediates. Hamilton's been called. So Hamilton's ignored his team.
2 weeks ago, at the end of the race, Lewis initially didn't want to heed the team's call to
The team called him, but he stayed out. And the thing is, he's now losing time to Max Verstappen.
I'm sure it feels good, but that is an intermediate tyre for around about 6/8, 3/4 of the surface area. It's slick for the rest of it.
Yeah, it is. When it comes to tyre choice, normally when you go to a wetter track, it's the team's call because they can see what's going on. Other people are putting wet.
I mean, normally you do have to trust your team, don't you, in these conditions, because they can see what's going on, but it's a drying track, so could it potentially be the driver's call? Lewis Hamilton made the call to stay out. Hamilton radio. And Hamilton got told to stay out one more lap. Make that 2 more laps. Because he stayed out once more. So it's commonly the clerk from Bottas from Verstappen.
Just under clear of Valtteri Bottas, and he was round about 7/10 of a second slower on the last lap than Bottas himself. Verstappen started to pull away from Lewis Hamilton, who still believes it's right to stay out.
Verstappen's pulling away from Lewis Hamilton, which still believes. He only pulled 2/10 on Lewis, though, in the last lap.
Even on a dry track, it's not bad, but it overheats, and he's probably going to go through an overheating phase, Max. And if Lewis can hold on to these tyres, there's every chance that he can close that gap again.
Which is what we saw after 3.
I mean, if Max goes through an overheating phase and Lewis can hold on to his tyres, there's every chance he might be able to get past the Red Bull.
Got good again once he got through that graining overheating phase. But there's now only about 15 laps to go in this race, so Hamilton might have a point in wanting to stay out and that being the right answer.
Does Hamilton have a point on wanting to stay out here?
They want to be safe. They don't want to throw away lots of points by
Hamilton radio again. Hamilton saying it's not far off the slicks.
The track does dry out and it needs slicks rather than intermediates, and if Sebastian Vettel might have been 10 laps too quick, then Hamilton could very well be in the box seat. By the way, last driver to win a race with no pit stops,
I mean,
during the red flag when he changed tyres, was Lewis Hamilton, Brazil 2016. Ted, down to you.
A couple of factors to consider with this Hamilton situation. He had to pass some traffic. First, it was Fernando Alonso.
And Hamilton had to pass traffic on his last lap. That might be why he dropped 2/10 of a second to Max Verstappen. But what a Turkish Grand Prix this is unfolding to be. Verstappen radio.
That's Max Verstappen. That's a worrying message from him.
Verstappen reporting there's a problem with his steering wheel.
He didn't have any problems in the first sector of this latest lap. He was half a second quicker.
But he was half a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton in the first sector. Let's go on board with Charles Leclerc then. Heading towards turn 12 again. No, it's the second time Leclerc has gone off the road at turn 12. Bottas is only 3 seconds behind. I mean, you get 15 points for Leclerc radio.
Obviously, because you're leading the race, Charles.
So going back to what I was saying, like you get 15 points for third and 12 points for fourth. So Lewis was leading the championship by 2 points coming into this race. Max would be leading it by 1 point exiting this race, and no penalties would be to be applied for the rest of the season, hopefully. So is Lewis thinking about the championship? If he can hold these intermediate tyres to the end of this race, then why not stay on the intermediate tyres? It's damage limitation. If you've only lost 1 point, effectively, to your championship rival, if they're only leading by 1 point, then I think you've done a pretty stellar job, to be honest. And is that why maybe Lewis is thinking about staying out? And if he can do it, then what drive it would be.
But it's definitely the right call. What seems to have been the right call for his teammate, though, was to get new intermediate tyres on.
And I think for Lewis's sake, it's definitely been the right call to stay out on the intermediates. I mean, the last sector and the first sector, there's still a bit of water on the track. Not much water, but in the middle sector, it's near enough dry. And Bottas is now gaining on Leclerc. 0.3 of a second now is the gap out in front. And Leclerc half a second now as they head towards the chicane. Sainz goes through on Ocon for 8, but Bottas through turn 11. Leclerc radio. Oh, and Bottas steps out, and Leclerc's been told to box, but again ignores the calls. But Bottas is going to go to the inside at turn 1. Can Bottas get it stopped? Yes! Bottas takes the lead of the Turkish Grand Prix. And great move from the Finnish driver. But is it almost slick tyres towards the end of this race? Hamilton radio. Hamilton lost a bit of time to Verstappen on this lap because he had to lap a back marker. But let's see how Bottas got past Leclerc. Fresher tyres. He can go onto the slightly wetter part of the track. Went down the inside. That was a good move. Bottas radio. .7 now. The gap between Verstappen and Hamilton.
Looking as well at the Hamilton and Verstappen battle, Verstappen seems to have a lot more pace on this current lap.
Verstappen has a lot more pace on this current lap. The Ferrari crew are coming out into the pit lane, and it's for Charles Leclerc. And Hamilton goes up to Verstappen up to second, Hamilton up to third. And he's going to come out behind Verstappen and Hamilton.
In this race, Verstappen will go to the next race in Austin, in the United States of America, leading by 1 point.
Verstappen would go to the next race in America, leading by just 1 point. And America is more of a Mercedes-powered track. And Sainz has just done the fastest lap. So the gap currently is 11 seconds between Leclerc and Hamilton. But if the track goes to slicks, then Hamilton could be the big winner from this one. 48 of 58 of Istanbul. And if you're just joining us, we'll be replaying this race a week on Monday. We replay the Italian Grand Prix to you tomorrow. So if you missed that one, make sure you subscribe. The Turkish Grand Prix will be replayed to you next Monday. So if you miss it, then make sure you catch up with all the action. Bottas has a 7-second lead to Max Verstappen, who is currently second in this race. We are riding on board now with Sergio Perez, and he is about 1.2 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Obviously, Leclerc has much fresher sets of intermediates. Sainz does the fastest lap of the race.
Fascinating to see what's going to unfold between Leclerc and Hamilton here. Hamilton, as you said, properly, 48 laps on that first
49 laps then.
He can push it harder for the last 10 laps of the race. Last time round, Hamilton lost a second to Max Verstappen. Are those tyres starting to struggle on the Mercedes?
Hamilton lost a second to Max Verstappen on the last lap.
Where you might think about slick tyres.
It is.
Not yet. Maybe it's a couple of seconds the other way, Jensen. But if it's not raining, we've not had anyone complaining about the
One of those times you might think about the slick tyres.
No, it's a tricky one for Lewis. They're basically slicks now. He's just got to make sure he hits the heat. He obviously has a lot of downforce on that car. A lot of downforce.
He's just got to make sure, but Leclerc is gaining on him
He should be able to keep relatively good temperature.
pretty quickly. Hamilton radio.
And just updates on the tyres.
Sounds like he's enjoying it. Charles Leclerc is
I mean-
just over a second faster than Lewis Hamilton on the previous lap. The gap is 10.4 seconds. Coming down
Leclerc was a second quicker than Hamilton on the last lap.
And remember what happened last year when Charles Leclerc tried to grab second place in this race, and in the end it was his teammate who ended up on the podium, and Perez alongside him. And Leclerc will
Who's it going to be
sure. Turn down to you.
who takes this Turkish Grand Prix?
Hamilton, what would really ruin this for Hamilton, I don't know what the commentators discuss, is if the big cloud at the end of the start-finish straight moves onto this circuit and starts depositing a bit more heavy rain, or rather some heavier rain, because it's still just drizzling here.
Ricardo radio.
And he started, he made his pit stop a lot earlier than others. Turn back to you.
The only problem is there's a big dark grey cloud looming over the track.
Knocking on the door of the points. Decent
And if
that's what-
Lewis, if that starts depositing some rain, Lewis could be in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, so at the moment that big grey cloud is holding on.
And Mercedes are coming out into the pits. And Hamilton's coming in.
Hamilton's coming in.
Hamilton's into the pits for new intermediates. It's got to be a quick stop. And it is a good stop for Lewis Hamilton. He's thrown away some points.
Yeah, but they might think they can get those back. Leclerc goes through. Perez goes through. I'm watching Gasly coming down the main straight now.
Leclerc goes through. Perez goes through.
Kilometers an hour now. He can get his foot down. Now he can get onto the racetrack. And ahead.
Can he get past Leclerc and Perez?
Sure, he knew he was in the loose positions. The way that, no, seriously, the way he was so relaxed and said, "Are you sure?" Okay. It sounded like it was a positive move they were making.
Well, the key here is, as Ted says, there's a very dark, ominous cloud.
And so now, if that cloud does start
Pressure intermediate tyres on Lewis Hamilton cancel out the deficit he's now going to make up on the Ferrari.
depositing rain, then
Sergio Perez, or
surely
even without that heavy rain, has Hamilton got enough laps left to try and charge down this the battle?
I mean, has he got enough laps left? as Perez and Leclerc are now exceptionally close. And Perez is going to be really close to Charles Leclerc through turn 11 and on to turn 12, getting a slipstream. But as he pulls out, he still can't quite get through, but he's going to go much later on the brakes. And Perez gets through, does he? But Leclerc is going to hold back. And Leclerc's going to try the outside at the final corner. But I think he's going to have to concede that position. Yes, he is. Perez up to the podium places. Hamilton radio.
Because Perez is that much faster on the track. He's not happy.
As I said, I don't think he knew he was going to lose 2 places. Here we go.
And let's go back on board with Sergio Perez.
Sergio Perez, he knew that he had better grip than Charles Leclerc, even though he's had those tyres on for a bit longer.
He had better grip than Charles Leclerc, didn't he?
Charles Leclerc's going through that now. He's also breaking on the dry part of the circuit. Lovely move, nicely judged. And Charles is never going to come back at him with the way his rear tyres are.
I think Leclerc's going to be under pressure again at the moment.
And Hamilton is closing now on Charles Leclerc as well. That's the second. Now is that gap. 8 tenths as they head through turn 11. Bottas leads from Max Verstappen, from Perez, from Leclerc, from Hamilton. The top 5. But Hamilton isn't quite going to be close enough for a move on Charles Leclerc on a brand new set of intermediate tyres. Leclerc radio. Leclerc saying he's got no rear grip at all. Hamilton 3.2 seconds quicker than Charles Leclerc on the last lap.
I think he's just got to move the Ferrari quickly to keep the spot, because his tyres are going to go through that same issue that Charles Leclerc's going through right now. So he needs to get this moved out as quick as he can.
Ted, to you.
Let me just explain what Mercedes are doing. They've got a computer, they've got a strategy computer on the pit wall, and they put all the numbers into it. It's like a strategy Opita 2000. And it says if you pit now, then you'll end up this, and this will be your race result. It predicts it in real time. But if you stay out, then this is going to be your race result. I think they just done what they could do to minimise the damage. Yes, maybe Hamilton should have pitted earlier, to give a few more laps to do something about it, but it's up to Lewis to be able to get past. Maybe the strategy operator.
It's now up to Lewis, isn't it?
Sergio Perez is driving like a Red Bull, kicking Red Bull today.
To get past Leclerc. Only 5 laps to go of this Turkish Grand Prix. That has not failed to deliver. Hamilton radio. Hamilton wanted to stay out, and he is not happy.
Yeah, just say he's been on the radio quite a few times. He's still really upset, I think, about being called in. He empties the pace. That's the thing.
I don't think Hamilton is very happy about being called in. You can vote for your driver of the day, f1.com/vote. And it'd be a 6-point lead in the championship for Max Verstappen. Esteban Ocon still hasn't stopped. He's all the way down in 10th position. Hamilton's being caught by Pierre Gasly. Should he have stayed out, we would never have known.
He is in trouble, Lewis Hamilton. He can't get near Charles Leclerc, and he's going to have to try and defend against Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, he's just got to hold on until his tyres clean up.
He's just got to hold on. 3 laps to go in this Turkish Grand Prix.
Gasly 2 seconds quicker than Norris behind. Now almost 8
Gasly 2 seconds quicker.
Yeah, they're both closing it down. Got close towards the end of the 3 laps to go.
Sorry, mate. At one stage, the damage limitation looked like it had worked for Mercedes. The way this is now swinging, the damage could be increasing lap after lap.
And the damage, Hamilton radio.
You can see Gasly.
You can see Gasly and Hamilton saying, leave him alone. 55 and 58 then. One half of the Mercedes garage will be celebrating. And the other half might have heads in hands.
Hamilton wanted to stay out. He knew that he'd been pitted after Sergio Perez had pitted. He'd come out behind Perez anyway. Wanted to keep going to the end on a set of tyres that had done him already.
Hamilton wanted to stay out, didn't he? He's going through the graining phase. And he's going to have a battle now with Gasly and Norris.
Very good that rapport between the engineer and driver. But I don't think he was given enough information before his pit stop. Anyway, it's done now. He's going to deal with the situation. And it seems the cars can catch, but then they really struggle to make the move.
3 laps to go.
2 weeks ago in Sochi, of course, where Mercedes got their information absolutely bang on, and between pitbull and driver, they managed to get the race win, where this man, Lando Norris, had to surrender it.
And Gasly is gaining. It's 8 tenths of a second, but he isn't quite going to be close enough. And Hamilton should be through this graining phase of the intermediate tyres very, very soon then. Top 5, Bottas, Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Hamilton and Gasly. Hamilton should have really stayed out in hindsight, but hindsight is a wonderful thing in Formula One. At the end of the day, it's only 6 points, and it could quite easily be overturned if Hamilton wins the next round, but it does make Austin a must-win race now for Lewis Hamilton. I mean, it's difficult to make a move at the moment because obviously most overtakes this season, Sebastian Vettel on 96, but Fernando Alonso on 95 and Carlos Sainz on 90. As we head on to the penultimate lap of the Turkish, on the penultimate lap of the Turkish Grand Prix, it's going to be 1 more or 2 more opportunities to the final corner for Pierre Gasly. Again, he isn't 3 more opportunities, sorry. He isn't going to be close enough this time.
Well, there's only one thing we'll be talking about, I guess. That's that the Mercedes Strategy Operator 2000 computer did not take into consideration that those new intermediates would just grain up and lose so much time.
It seems strange, Jensen, because you've been onto that.
It's was it the wrong decision? Must have been the wrong decision. When we can join the conversation, hashtag Turkish GP.
He's put a gap between himself and Pierre.
Only have a gap now, has Lewis Hamilton, between himself and Pierre Gasly, but it's still looking very dark over the circuit. Penultimate lap of the Turkish Grand Prix that once again has not failed to deliver. Through turn 8, and Gasly's dropped right back now. And as Hamilton got through that graining stage, and Valtteri Bottas starts the final lap of the race. He's so comfortable. He's got 10-second gap to Max Verstappen. It'd be his first Grand Prix victory since Russia 2020.
and he feels that it might just have cost him a couple of places. Lando Norris is still
Hamilton wasn't happy with the world champ, with the pit stop calls today. He was not happy at all. He feels it cost him quite a few positions. At the end of the day, it'd be 6 points, the gap in Verstappen's favour. But Valtteri Bottas has stormed today. He's been so confident and driven such a great race. He heads through turn 11 for the final time.
in his Mercedes career. It happened in 2018, of course. He had 5 spins.
He had 5 spins here last year, finished 13th, gave up the World Championship. He's not in the World Championship fight this year, but he is going to win his first race in over a year. Valtteri Bottas wins the Turkish Grand Prix and gets the fastest lap on the last lap, and it is going to be Max Verstappen, who comes home in second, and he's going to take a 6-point advantage in the World Championship. Sergio Perez is going to come home third for a double Red Bull podium, and then it's going to be when they come round the final couple of corners. Sergio Perez round the final corner now. It's a double podium for Red Bull, and he made the right stop at the right time. It's going to be Charles Leclerc who comes home in fourth, with Lewis Hamilton a very disappointing 5th place then. But Valtteri Bottas wins the Turkish Grand Prix. Lando Norris comes home in 7th. Bottas Radio. What a race.
It wasn't a straightforward not just leading from the front and the car was quicker than everyone else.
It wasn't straightforward. Tricky conditions.
Every single lap of the race, so really good.
And ends up with the fastest lap of the race.
And he takes all 26 points.
To Valtteri Bottas, I mentioned Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz 7th and 8th. Lance Stroll came home to take 9th place ahead of Esteban Ocon. There's one driver to do all 58 laps on the same set of tyres.
And Esteban Ocon done all 58 laps on the same set of tyres for Verstappen Radio.
I'm surprised the question wasn't where was Lewis.
Imagine he was told before that radio message.
And
Reporting Esteban Ocon, worth saying that he beat Antonio Giovinazzi by 7/10 of a second. It was a bit close at the line for that final point.
Esteban Ocon got Giovinazzi at the line by 7/10 of a second. That would have been a photo finish, that would have. The last European race then is now officially done. Perez Radio.
First podium for Sergio Perez since Paul Ricard.
First podium for Sergio Perez since Paul Ricard. And Valtteri Bottas pulls in to that number 1 spot for the first time in over a year.
Sensational move, it really was. And a great fight between the two drivers, gave each other plenty of respect. And he managed to avoid
Valtteri Bottas climbs out of his Mercedes car then. Might be his last win in Formula 1. If he goes to Alfa Romeo, he probably won't win an Alfa Romeo. Might do, I don't know. He jumps in to his team's arms, and the celebrations now start.
Yeah, they do. He was obviously in a nice position, getting the pole position with Lewis.
And very soon we'll be speaking to our top 3.
Applause and handshakes from his teammates and a hug from his partner Tiffany as well.
Applause and handshakes from his teammates and a hug from his partner Tiffany as well.
Championship as well.
packed crowd in Turkey, and they were treated to a very good race as well.
Has led this championship by more than 8 points. But that 6-point gap, that's pretty more than halfway through the race. I think Mercedes were thinking. I'd rather get the feeling they thought that it would be
6 points.
and make it a
The gap in Verstappen's favour now then. And a very disappointing afternoon for Lewis Hamilton.
And Lewis would win the championship. So.
Well, I'm just thinking here, if we went to Austin and Lewis won and Max finished second with the fastest lap, they'd be level going to Mexico.
What a season.
What a season, absolutely. But in seasons like this, championships are decided on very fine margins. And I wonder if that strategy choice today...
Could that strategy choice today by Mercedes
In the meantime,
be the difference in championship victory or not in Abu Dhabi? But we're now going to hand you for our race interviews with David Crawford.
Valtteri Bottas, our race winner. Welcome back. We've been expecting you.
Thank you. It's been a while, but
That's good.
nice.
Over the years since your last win, it wasn't dominant in terms of the distance to your competitors, but it was dominant in the way you appeared to run that race. I saw one little moment on the exit of turn 1 where you got sideways, and we know that can be a difficult corner, but otherwise it was textbook.
Yeah, I think from my side, I have to say probably one of the best races I've had ever. Just apart from that one little slide, everything was under control. But like I said before the race, the car has been really good in every condition, and I have really good confidence with it and could really control it. And it's not easy to choose, the strategy here with these conditions, when to stop and to which tire and everything. But I'm glad everything went smooth for once for me, and that's nice.
Yeah, it seemed very much under control, but put us in the cockpit. How difficult are those sorts of conditions for a race driver?
Yeah, when there's only like one drying line, it doesn't need much that you go off, so definitely needed to focus all through the race. So yeah, difficult one, and feels like well earned victory.
Yeah, it was indeed, Valtteri. Go and enjoy the moment, and congratulations on your win.
Thank you.
As Valtteri heads off to get ready for the podium, we have our championship leader once again, Max Verstappen. I can appreciate you even in second place. I know you want to win every race like all the drivers, but a good damage limitation Grand Prix for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was not easy today. I mean, the track was very greasy. We just had to manage the tires the whole race, so we couldn't really push. And it just seemed like Valtteri had a bit more pace and could look after the tires maybe a bit better as well. But I'm of course so happy to finish second, because in these conditions it's also easy to get it wrong and you drop back. So overall, very, very pleased.
You didn't see any big moments during the race, but of course the cameras aren't on you at all times. What was the most difficult phase of the Grand Prix for you?
Stay awake. No, it was just all about just managing the tires. So you were never pushing to make it to a certain amount of laps, and then you box for another set. But yeah, happy to be on the podium.
Well, look, it may have been, let's say, a procedural race for you, but from my point of view in the combox, it was a really exciting Grand Prix, watching the different strategies play out. That 6-point swing, you leading the championship, are you looking at that race by race, or you just now focus on Austin, Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been close the whole year, and I'm pretty sure again in Austin, it will be a good battle with Mercedes. So we just have to keep on pushing, keep on trying to improve, and then we'll see where we end up at the end. But of course, I think so far this season has been really good.
Excellent, Max, enjoy that. And then finally, a driver of this track has been very good to him. He had a podium here last year. Checo, great race. Congratulations. One of your controlled races again at the beginning, looking like you were dropping back, but when it really counted, you had the tires and you had the car to pull off some big passes.
Yeah, it was quite an intense race there in the first stint with Lewis and fighting with Charles. The start was pretty good. It was just one of those races of having to be patient, push at the right times, manage that tires well, because we didn't really know what was going on with the tires. They were coming back, they were going off. It was pretty hard to manage the tires out there today.
So look, just behind us on the screen, once again, another great pass. You positioned the car on the dry line. That feels good for a race driver, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's always nice to get a good move. Obviously, Charles is a very good driver, so it's nice to fight with him.
Well, go and enjoy your podium.
Thank you.
And honestly,
Sergio Perez then
6 points. You can all swing in the next round in Austin, couldn't it? That's what's been so great about this World Championship this year. And it's a double podium for Red Bull. And as I said, next round, when we head stateside, it can all change again. It is a Mercedes track in Austin, so expect the Silver Arrows to be quicker than the Bulls, but we have to wait and see. Carlos Sainz was driving. Let's have a listen to his radio.
Congratulations, you are driver of the day, starting from the back row of the grid, finishing P8. Tell me how difficult it was out there on track today.
First driver of the day of my life. It took me a few years to be driver of the day. But yeah, thank you. It was quite tricky at the beginning. I could do a lot of points when it was full there. Then when it dried out, there was only one racing line, and I couldn't overtake that easy. And we could have mixed up. But apart from that, we feel so great. So happy.
Fantastic to talk to you and enjoy your first moment as driver of the day.
It's been a long time coming.
His first drive of the day. It's been a real long time coming, hasn't it?
We asked them who's going to finish higher in the championship.
And as we get ready,
there's half a point between the two Ferrari drivers.
half a point between the two drivers for Ferrari. In third place, then Sergio Perez is about to make his way out onto the podium in Turkey. And it is a Turkish Grand Prix that we will not forget for a long while.
First year at Red Bull, Sergio Perez.
The second place then, it's Max Verstappen. Another podium for Verstappen. And coming out on the podium in top position is the Mercedes driver of Valtteri Bottas. And his first win in over a year. As long with the Mercedes performance engineer, we will now hear the Finnish and the German national anthems. There we go then. The Finnish and the German national anthems. And an applause rings around Istanbul Park.
We'll go into the engineering office and want to know, Jensen, what happened with the strategy.
And I think Lewis Hamilton will want to go into the engineering office to know what exactly happened. As Valtteri Bottas receives the winner's trophy with an applause from Toto Wolff.
He's also not in Mercedes with massive downforce. So Lewis was in a good position, and I think for Lewis the main thing is that it wasn't communicated to him well enough that he was going to lose 2 places.
And
it's car number 77 then that triumphs the Bretonnier.
Bretonnier takes the Constructors' Trophy for Mercedes, and Max Verstappen gets presented his second place trophy then.
For Max Verstappen, it's yet another podium in his career. We see it week after week.
We see it week after week for Max Verstappen, another podium in his Formula One career. Sergio Perez receives his 3rd place trophy. It's a 6-point lead then for Max Verstappen as we spray the champagne. 6 points then as we head stateside in 2 weeks' time when Formula One returns.